Hola y buen días. Bienvenidos a Cámara y Café Está Remoto. Well, no, not really. This was supposed to be Está Remoto while we were in Bilbao, but we were walking 35-ish, 30 to 35 kilometers a day, and I was just too tired to film one of these while we were there. I'm sorry. Was really looking forward to filming a Cámaras y Café con Leche, because the news that we're going to talk about with Pentax users not being short for 50mm f1.4 lens choices broke while we were in Bilbao, and I think it's going to be worth chatting about. But first, the intro. Okay, so today's coffee is from Genesis Coffee Lab, the Tamaru Tedessi COE Ethiopia 2021 winning producer. And it's a natural coffee with flavors of raspberry, peach, lemon, honey, and pear. And I am not a fan of this coffee. It's bright. It is very, very bright. It almost tastes under roasted. The flavors are good. It's just very bright. Oh yes, and new mug. We brought this back from Bilbao. This was made by a Basque potter in Bilbao. That is bright. Wow. Actually ran that through the mocha pot that we brought back from Bilbao as well, and it does a lot to mellow out the brightness. Anyway, so I went on to B&H just before this video, and I'm like, Pentax has two new 1.4s, but they also have the big one that I did a round glass review on 16 months ago, give or take. And I could have sworn that the original FA was still available, either new or potentially new old stock on B&H, and it was. So right now, if you were to go up to B&H, there are 4 50mm f1.4 options for Pentax K-mount. There is the old SMC FA 50mm 1.4, the new identical looking classic, the new HD coded version of that lens, and then the big one, the HD SDM AW, the really amazing 50mm 1.4. When I saw the news that Ricoh was going to re-release these two lenses, one of them with the only difference in it being the coatings, same exact optical formula, just with different coatings, my first thought was, I cannot wait to make a comparison video looking at these two lenses, because this is going to be something I don't know of another lens on the market in camera history or that we can say this about, where there is a version that has one coating and a version that has another coating, and that's the only difference, and they're being made at the same time. So if you took something like any of the old 50mm 1.4s or 1.8s, whatever, over the years, and you look at them from the oldest of the Canons, Nikons, Pentaxes, whatever, up through the end of the manual focus period. This is because it's a longer period, right? Even if the optical formula didn't change between, say, the Canon SC and Canon SSC and then Canon FDN lenses, and I'm not sure if the optical formula on those changed or not, but if you took, say, 2 or 3 different versions of those lenses over the years with the same optical formula but upgraded coatings, it really wouldn't be an apples-to-apples comparison of how coatings affect the optics, because production techniques change over the span of those decades. So what Ricoh's done is release 2 optically identical lenses with different coatings. I don't know if I'm going to try to rent them, because it would be very expensive to buy both of them, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun to compare both lenses side by side and look at how coatings affects the image performance of the two different lenses. I think what we'll see is less flare. I think we'll see less ghosting. That's exactly what the new coatings that Ricoh uses are supposed to do, and I think they'll deliver on that. What I would be really interested in seeing is if there's a difference in color cast between the two lenses as well. I suspect the answer to that is yes, but I can't tell you whether I think which one I think will be warmer or cooler than the other one. So anyway, very exciting release. But let's talk about whether or not this is brilliant or silly from a marketing standpoint. And quite frankly, I don't know the answer to that yet. So right now, going into the future, assuming that the SMC-FA lenses are either discontinued and just new old stock, or will shortly be discontinued in favor of just the classic, or just being rebadged as the classic, I couldn't tell you which. At minimum, Pentax users will have 3 brand new 50mm 1.4 lens options to choose from at different price points. Now there's the big one, the SDM, that's $1,000 to $1,200 depending on whether you get black or silver. And then there's the going to be the classic and the new coatings one, which are going to be in the $350 to $400 price range. And then if you were to buy the old FA right now, that's I think $330 on B&H today. So all in the same, roughly in the same ballpark, within about $70 of each other. So you could get both of those legacy 50mm for less than a single one of the brand new 50mm. And the two legacies use the vintage, the 90s era double gauze lens design from the FA, and that's an upgraded lens design versus the SMC-M. And I think it's also upgraded versus the SMC-A, but don't quote me on that. I forgot to check that before the video. But it is different than the M, which is a staggeringly good lens. And the FA as well, by the way, is a staggeringly good lens. I think it is one of the most well-loved Pentax standard lenses, if not the most well-loved Pentax standard lenses ever made. So is it a good marketing decision to release both of these? Well, knee-jerk reaction is Ricoh customers are going to be competing with themselves. At the surface of it, you could say both lenses will have a reduced sales volume. Sales volume has a direct linkage to amount of profitability, economies of scale and all that. You can produce 1,000 units of something for less per unit than if you produce 1 unit of something, just as a very simple example. And if you sell them at the same price, you're going to make more money per unit on the ones that have the lower cost. So is Ricoh chipping into its market share? Is it competing against itself by having 3 lenses with the exact same focal length and maximum aperture? Or have they done something very interesting and convinced all of their rabid Pentax devotees to buy 2 more 50mm lenses? I don't know. I don't know. But I am really glad that they have gone back to releasing small, lightweight lenses, and that they have a 50mm option, which is less than $1,000. We're going to call $996.99 $1,000 between friends. All right. So if I had to guess, I'd say yes, it's a good marketing move. And I think that their press release, they said, and I think it's a good marketing move for the reason that they are giving people who are committed to their film cameras a more film era-like look with the classic, and people who are committed to their digital cameras a more digital era-like look with the revised coatings version of that lens. So, how do I think this is going to affect their sales? Actually, I think it's going to help their sales, because there is a huge need for small, lightweight lenses. I mean, I look at the EOS R lenses, and they do have some. There's the 16mm and the 51.8, and some of their others, like the 28, are there, and the Nikon have the small primes as well. But those aren't considered their best lenses, though they are good lenses. I do think that these two 50mm 1.4 lenses have a lot of potential to be considered some of Ricoh's best. So ultimately, I think it's a good move to get new people into their DSLRs. I think it's a good move to get their DSLR base an affordable fast prime lens that is not so heavy like the big one they sell now. And I think also really interesting and forward looking is I think this kind of hints at some of their plans if their mechanical 35mm film camera comes to life, which I am optimistic that it will. One of the things Ricoh is demonstrating is that with the Pentax brand, they want to go after profitable niches, not high volume. Let Canon and Sony and Nikon have the high volume market, because that's where they're competing well. having Pentax as a niche, lower volume brand that focuses on things that niche users want is a great idea, as we've talked about on this channel. And I think that this release is a way of showing that that's something that Ricoh is committed to with the brand. So ultimately, as I've thought about it during this video, I think, yeah, this is a good marketing move. I think it's going to be a good sales move. And I cannot wait to get my hands on these two lenses and put them next to each other to see how they perform. Anyway, let me know if you guys are excited about these and what you are thinking about with this announcement. And I'll see you in the next Cameras and Coffee.